So today we're going to continue the review of some records available at the DOB Now systems for the building located at 1915 Billingsley Terrace, the building in the Bronx, the building that suffered a partial collapse earlier this week. If you're a property manager, building owner, or a neighbor concerned about the status of a building that has FISP filings, meaning Façade Inspection filings, this is the website that you may want to use. In the case of this building, we can see that the last reports dating back to 2009 were filed with a swarm status. That means that the building definitely requires some repairs. The swarm classification, it's indicative that the building requires certain repairs. It will be beneficial for the building owner or the property manager to go into the DOB records and see if the project was filed with DOB. We need to see if there was a repair project that addressed these swarm conditions. So that's as far as the records between 2009 and 2014. Between 2020 and 2021, we can see that the building was found as unsafe. Unfortunately, we don't see additional extensions. Once the building is found unsafe, there should be extensions filed every 90 days approximately. We do see the filing of the initial extensions after each unsafe cycle, but we don't see further extensions, which again needed to be filed every 90 days. So let's take a quick look at the available records for the latest filing. In this section, you can see the whole description of the report. And you can see sections such as the applicant information. It gives you the information for the architect that did the filing. And it also has access to the supporting documents. The supporting documents, it's a number of documents that contain different information, such as plot plan, detailed photographs. Detailed photographs will be the document that have photos of deficiencies found by the QE of record. It doesn't mean that it's going to have every single photograph of all the deficiencies. Typically, the QEs of record will include one typical photo per type of condition, meaning if this crack was typical, they may include 2 or 3 and indicate their location on the top or on the bottom of the photo supplement. So in the case of this building, we can see that there were some cracks along the walls, some deteriorated or rusted lintels, some conserve of spalling mortar along some of the corners, some smaller spalling mortar, a leaning parapet, or just isolated section of parapet, and improperly installed air conditioners. Also some bowl or some parapet showing some signs of movement. So we can see that the report included some signs of the parapet that had some shifting, some signs of shifting. According to the report, this parapet was along location W1, which based on this plot plan is the northwest corner. So let's take a look at what we can see on Google. And yes, that coincides with the northwest corner of the building. The section of the building that collapsed is the northeast corner. It's this area right here. So there were not signs of parapet movement along that parapet, along the roof level at the time of that report. So something else that we can see on the drawings is that the last report did not include any deficiencies along the northeast column. So this is a section that collapsed along West Burnside Avenue. The collapsed sections of the wall extended all the way from the corner to the first window line. If the If the collapse did not continue, it is likely that there is a column here supporting the rest of the facade. Our theory is that this column, due to its cracks and deterioration noted on the photos that will be shown later, had collapsed, leaving spandrel beams spanning between the first and the second column. Once the column collapsed, the spandrel beams between the first and the second column went down, and the upper section of the facade was left without support. That's what we believe it happened in this collapse. We look at the other side of the building. We also don't see any specific work or deficiency included on the last report. We also see that the location of these openings appears to be larger than it is in reality. If we look at the building records available in Google, we can see that the opening of the storefront ends along the right window jamb of the second window line, which coincides with the section of the facade that collapsed above. So, in theory, this opening only reaches up to here. And also means that there is a beam spanning between this column and the first column, or between the column and the section of the wall that is bearing the loads above. And the section that collapsed earlier this week extends from the corner to the window jamb on the second window line. So if we consider the extent of the corner that collapsed, we notice that it was limited by the storefront openings. As we will see on the photos to be included later in this video, the column had cracks dating back to 2014. Photos included on the last FISP report also show cracks along the subject column. Our theory for the opposite facade is that the section collapse extended between the first column and the second column, somehow located between these two storefront openings. We can see that this section is slightly larger or thicker. You can see that this section is slightly thicker, most likely to accommodate the second column. What the DOB structural engineers are likely doing is reviewing the condition of the second column and every other columns along this facade, as we see several openings on this elevation, which is not what we see on Pelham Place. Along Pelham Place, we see that the storefront is actually rather small, and the majority of the facade is supported by this masonry wall. So if further collapses are likely, will be along the elevation that have the least number of bearing wall or bearing wall area. So it is important to review the conditions of these columns, which have been likely disturbed during the installation of these storefronts. So this concludes a quick review of the records that are available on DOB now. There are some more documents that we're not going into detail, but we're focusing on the documents that have the most graphics, such as detailed photographs, repair drawings, elevation photographs.